Hello everyone and welcome to today's drawing lesson. I'm Mrs. Kiely and I'm going to be talking about the first steps an artist takes when they approach a new object to do a life drawing. The first thing you need to remember is that a photograph is not a real life thing. So drawing from a picture is not the same experience that you would get if you were drawing from a real life object. Today's object that I will be drawing for you is this coffee urn, this camping coffee urn. So it's a metallic object, it's got a handle and a spout and a lid. So when you first come up to an object that you're going to draw, the best way to start the project, start the task, is to look at it with a scientific observational eye and find the basic geometric shapes that make up the object. So looking at this coffee urn, we can see that the basic shape is sort of like a rectangle that gets a little skinny as it goes up. So we're going to start off with a basic rectangle. And also before you start drawing, you need to look and observe at how tall it is versus how wide it is, and figure those top and bottom and left and right sides of the object and make sure that it's going to fit on the page. So here we go. Got my sketchbook, and I want the top of my object to stop there just below the edge of the page. I don't want it to run off. And the same thing for the bottom. I'm going to aim to hit down here, and the spout and the handle. So I've kind of got my 4 compass points and I'm going to work within it. I want to have a little bit of visual space between the object and the edge of the page, and I don't want to run off. I don't want to leave a whole bunch of white empty space either, so I want to maximize the use of my the space of my page. So now we'll get into the basic geometric shapes. So the overall basic shape of this coffee urn is a rectangle that's slightly wider on the bottom as it goes up. The top has a bit of a roundness to it, so we will use a round shape to guide us in that. And then the other basic shapes that I see is a rectangle going horizontally across the top here, this band. So sneak that in there. Notice how I'm holding my pencil. I don't hold my pencil the way I would as if I was writing. When I'm writing, you're going to grip down closer to the end of the pencil. This gives you a lot more fine control. But in the initial sketch of a drawing, the looser the better. And my line work is not heavy. The marks that I'm making are not dark. See a circle for this. And you want to keep your lines light rather than dark, because this is the first step in a long journey towards a finished drawing. You may just be practicing sketching, and that's great, but it's a good habit to keep these light and loose so that if you do move on to the next step and you are needing to erase something, it's a lot easier to erase a light line than a heavy dark line that puts a lot of pressure on the page. And scribbling is great. Somewhere in the scribbles, you're going to find the correct answer of how do I draw this handle. Somewhere in there, the answer is hidden. So I'm not worrying about getting it right the first time. All that pressure is off right now, and I'm just loosely letting the drawing develop. There we go. And after you get that basic outline of the object, you can go in and add a few significant details. I can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 impressions on this coffee urn, so I'm going to try to get these 4 good thing you're drawing light. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get those in. So, like I said, a sketch begins with a real-life object, a loosely handled pencil with loose lines, and you're focusing first on getting down the basic geometric shapes of the object that it's made up of. And then after you get those down, you can start tweaking it and looking at contour lines, working on perfecting the proportions. So the elements and principles of design that are most important in a life sketch are shape, line, and proportion. I'm going to use this pink pencil now to kind of show you and demonstrate the inside of my head, what was going on inside my head while I was drawing this. So this pink drawing, this pink overdrawing, isn't necessarily what you're actively going to draw, but this is what you should be thinking of. So like I said earlier, you're going to think about your top and bottom and how wide it's going to be so that it sits inside the page nicely. You can work off the center of the thing because this has a very vertical direction, height to it. And then I'd look at things like how high is this point to this point in comparison to this point and this point. What would they be like compared to each other? How wide is, or how high up off the ground, off the bottom edge, does the spout start? And then here, compare this to this, and then that'll get that correct for me. Then I'd look at how high this is, how wide it is, especially in comparison to how wide the bottom is. So I'd be comparing the bottom edge to the top edge. Also, when I was drawing, I was looking at what aligns up with what. So I noticed that the bottom of the handle was fairly in line with the bottom of the attachment of the spigot, and so on and so forth. I also noticed that the tip end of the spigot was almost in line with this line here. So I was superimposing a grid over top of the object that I was drawing so that I could have better proportions. The other thing I was looking at was the negative spaces. So anywhere where your object is creating a shape in the air would be called negative space. And if you can look at those negative spaces and draw them as if they were a shape unto themselves, you'd get better proportions as well. And you could even say that this was negative space. In fact, anything all around it is negative space. And if you can look at the nothingness around the object, that'll help you get a better sense of proportion. So that's just the first step in a life drawing assignment, where you get the basic geometric shapes of a real life object. You work and focus on proportion. Use a light, loose pencil mark so that you can easily erase it. In the next video, we'll be looking at taking the next step and perfecting our contour lines, and then moving towards value, highlights, shadows, and all that fun stuff. So thank you for watching today's video about life drawings. Please click on like and subscribe to my videos because there'll be more coming shortly. Thanks for watching.